Hi, I'm Lisa Bagshaw. Welcome to Bold Leaps, the show that interviews creative, inspiring, successful people about the risks they've taken to pursue their dreams. And today's guest is one of the world leaders in fostering classical music talent, Leila Getz, Artistic Director of the Vancouver Recital Society. When Leila was 1 year old, living in Cape Town, South Africa, her father went to war, and she was brought up by her mother and her mother's sister. It was Aunt Ree who first exposed Leila to a wild and colorful world of artists, performers, and the theater. In university, Leila studied music and was proficient at piano and cello. But she herself had no desire to perform. She took up teaching and worked as a concert page turner. At 25, she met and married her husband within 3 weeks and moved with him back to Vancouver, where he was working at UBC. Again, she tried teaching music, but she no more wanted to be a teacher than a housewife. It was when she decided to create her own music series that her life completely changed. She set up appointments with music managers in New York City and hopped on a plane by herself to pursue her dreams. As a result of all these bold leaps, Leila has presented Canadian debut performances of some of the world's most brilliant and respected young musicians, many of whom are now superstars. She's built a loyal and diverse audience of nearly 45 years and is the recipient of both the Order of BC and the Order of Canada for her achievements. Welcome to the show, Leila Getz.
Well, after that introduction, you sure don't need me.
I know, we can end it right there. You're just so fabulous. You're such a force of nature. Well, what a story. Let's get into it. I'd love to start with your childhood. What was it like growing up in an environment like that, where you are so surrounded by creative, artistic, talented people?
It was actually quite remarkable, because the people surrounding me, the people of the theater in general, are larger than life. Mm-hmm. They have personalities that are absolutely extraordinary. So I used to sit at a dinner table as a 5-year-old with just crazy people talking about all kinds of wonderful things. And two of the actors who had come out to South Africa from England, because my aunt started a theater in Cape Town, and they called me their teddy bear. So they used to take me all over the place with them. I had a very, very colorful, lively, wonderful early life in Cape Town.
What do you think the impact was of that environment on sort of how you approach life?
You know, I've not thought about it, but probably it opened me up to all kinds of possibilities. And, you know, no 2 days in my life were ever the same. I mean, sure, I went to school, but I feel that I did have a very privileged life, surrounded by utterly remarkable people. My father was, well, as I think I told you, my father left South Africa he joined the army when I was 1 year old, and he didn't come back till I was 6. Mm. And my dad was a dentist. He was the calm one in the family, the only one who didn't speak when he didn't have to. And but he was kind of an intellectual, and he was a voracious reader, and he had a number of friends who were well-known authors and writers in the newspaper. And so, I mean, and one of them had gone to Russia, and of course this is South Africa, right? And anybody who showed any interest in Russia was sort of thrown into jail. And I remember my dad received a package of, my aunt received a package of programs from a Russian theater. And my father went into a meltdown, because she was living with us at the time. And he said, we can't have these documents in the house. I'm going to have to call a lawyer, and we're going to have to burn them. And the lawyer will sign an affidavit to say that we've burned these documents and you didn't order them. So, and I mean, that happened right in front of me. And it was a crazy life. I mean, I didn't even tell you this, Lisa, when we talked initially, but I had grown up and I'd gone away to England, and I'd been away for a year. So now I'm 22. I came back to South Africa. And one night, I was still living at home with my parents. 1 o'clock in the morning, there was a banging on the door. And my dad went to the door, and it was the police. And they said, we're coming, we have a warrant to search your house. And they came into the house, and they turned it upside down. They searched it. And my father said, may I know why? And they said, we don't have to tell you. And only 3 days later did my father figure out that there had been the university students were blowing up pylons in Cape Town, part of the protest movement, which was really growing. And one of those students was a patient of my father's, and they must have found my dad's name in his diary. And that's why they searched out. So, I mean, you know, I knew that there was no way I was going to live the rest of my life in Cape Town.
Mm-hmm. Well,
or in South Africa.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an extraordinary childhood that has definitely shaped you. But when we come back, I want to fast forward, because you met and married your husband very quickly. You have very good instincts. Obviously, very trustworthy instincts, because you've been married this whole time. And I want to start talking about the Vancouver Recital Society and how that all began and all the risks that you took to make that happen. So we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Bold Leaps. I'm here with the unstoppable, highly risk-taking Leila Getz. It's just so exciting to talk to you about the Vancouver Recital Society and how it all began. Where I'd like to start right now is you had this idea that you were going to do the concert series. Was the first step to lock down the talent?
Yes, I mean, because I've always been interested in young musicians, and because when I was at university in Cape Town, I was the page turner for concerts. International artists used to come out. It was before the days they boycotted. And so I used to either sell programs or turn pages at these concerts. And I met many of the musicians. And I got a real thrill out of particularly working with young musicians who were just starting out. And when I came to live in Vancouver, there was nothing of the kind. Hugh Pickett, the wonderful Hugh Pickett, was, I think he was called Famous Artist, was bringing in big stars, big names. And so nobody was interested in young up-and-coming performers. David Louis even brought in great things, and I worked for him for a little while. And when I said to him, why don't you bring so-and-so, and so who were just starting out, and he said, are you crazy? I have to make money. And so I said, yes, I am crazy. And to hell with money, I'm going to try it myself.
I think that's a really good lesson, to hell with money and to just go for it. One part of the story that I really love is you set up these meetings in New York.
Yes.
This is pre-Google. This is pre-internet.
Yeah.
How did you contact these managers in New York City?
Oh, that's easy.
And what did you say to them?
Well, there used to be a large directory. It's like a telephone book, and it lists all the management companies and the different managers within those companies for music and dance. And everything is in there. And I knew there were some young musicians I was interested in. So I looked up and I found the management companies, and I called the management companies.
You called.
I called, but what I didn't realize, of course, I mean, this is really boiling it down to its bottom rung. I mean, actually, it's like going, it was like going to a car dealership. You know how anxious they are to sell you a car? Well, they thought I was manna from heaven, you know. Here walks this woman, and she wants to pay for artists that nobody else wants to book.
These young artists.
Yes. Yes. So, you know, sure, you can have whatever you like. What can we do to help? I mean, I couldn't believe how easy it was. There was only one manager who sat me down and said, so how can I be sure you'll have the money?
I think that's a good question.
It was a good question. And you know what? I can't remember what I said. But I got the artist anyway.
Well, what was the process? Were you auditioning people or listening to records or just... And how did you know who to choose?
I've seen them on television.
Okay.
Or a friend. I had a very, very, very close soulmate in London who also used to listen a lot, and we would talk about young artists. And I don't know how I found. I don't know. I mean, people ask me today. They fall out of the ceiling. I don't know. I just.
But one of the things that I think is very special about you is that you, by reputation, you have, and it kind of goes back to choosing your husband after 3 weeks.
No, I didn't choose him. He chose me.
He chose you, but you agreed. Your ability, your gut instincts, when it comes to choosing talent, seems to be a real knack. So you rely on your gut instincts for a lot of decisions.
I don't have a rational bone in my body.
Where do you think this reliance on your gut instincts comes from? Did in your childhood, were you given opportunities to make decisions?
Not really.
No?
I don't have a clue where it comes from.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, somebody can give me a tape, or I can look at something, say, on YouTube, and generally I can tell within 5 minutes whether I'm interested in the artist or not. It speaks to me, and you know, if it's bad, it's easy. If it's bad, and if it's boring, it's also easy. You're not interested. It's something has to move you. And, you know, we just had a concert this last weekend with 3 musicians who had only played together 3 times before. They all have individual careers and they live in different places in Europe. And they decided they wanted to do a couple of concerts. So they came from Europe and they went to play in San Francisco, and then they came up to Vancouver and played in Vancouver. Now they've gone back to Europe. It was probably one of the greatest 10 concerts we've ever presented, because there was a cohesion and a magic, and something extraordinary happened in the hall. And the audience was absolutely mesmerized. And it was a fantastic audience. And I think that's what I say this all the time to people. I think when you buy a ticket to a performance, a live performance, you're always taking a risk, because you really never know what can happen. You could buy a ticket to the greatest performer in the world, and that performer may have eaten something before the performance and feel lousy and not play their best, or could have had a fight with the wife or the husband, or, you know, you cannot guarantee anything. And so when you go to a theater or a concert hall without great expectations, and suddenly it's really extraordinary, it blows you away to an extent which you wouldn't have had if you'd gone with these expectations. Oh, it's a big name. Or, I think that's maybe one of the differences between popular music and classical music, because when people buy $1,000 tickets to go and hear Madonna, or multi-million dollars to go and hear Taylor Swift, they know what they're going to hear. They know. But when you go to classical music, you don't know.
That is very true. And I think, again, you have built your reputation on people buying tickets.
They trust us.
And they trust you.
Yes, we've built an audience on trust, absolutely. We have the most wonderful, I keep telling them to go forth and multiply.
Yeah. Why do you think that you instill such trust in people?
I don't. I mean, it's the musicians who come who are so wonderful. That's what it is. Now, I'm going to sit here and tell you that our series is on the level of any of the great series anywhere in the world. Notwithstanding, we have still presented 3 of the worst concerts I've ever been at in my life. There's another thing. When you have an audience and you've built them on trust, you have to be honest. And you can say, sorry, I screwed up. That was a terrible concert. And if somebody phones to complain, because we once brought 2 big names, and someone phoned, and it was a dreadful concert, and someone phoned me and said, Mrs. Getz, it wasn't up to your usual standard. And I said, oh, I love you. I think you're so wonderful. Thank you for phoning me and telling me. They were just overwhelmed. I said, it just shows what good taste you've got. And, keep on coming and keep in touch.
I love that you can admit to, because you can't have a perfect record.
No, you have to be honest.
Yeah. Well, we're going to find out more about honesty and what else is going on now. But first we have to take a break. But stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Bold Leaps. I'm here with Leila Getz, and I'm wondering, what do you think your superpower is?
Oh, I don't have a superpower. I just, I think if you don't risk failure, you don't risk success. Mm-hmm. And I do take chances, and I love doing that. I love surprising people. I love sharing discoveries with people. And that's what keeps me going. There's so much young talent in the world coming up all over the place. Mm-hmm. And especially now that we're all so connected, it's easy to find them if they come from Uzbekistan or wherever, If they're a big talent, sooner or later, they'll land up here on the VRS stage.
Well, thanks to you. What do you think the biggest lesson is that you have learned in this whole 45 years of from the moment of people saying you're absolutely crazy, it's never going to work, to really putting so many phenomenal artists on the map? What's the biggest lesson?
I think, I'll tell you, I think that I've learned to be open. You have to be open always to opportunities. You have to keep your eyes and your heart and your ears wide open all the time. Because if you embark upon a plan which is just driving you straight forward, you miss a hell of a lot by not pausing and looking sideways. And so I think the lesson that I've learned is to follow one's convictions and to be honest. Most important, to be honest with people, because I think if you're going to want them to trust you, it's all about trust. Mm-hmm. It's about trust and communication. Mm-hmm. That's what it is.
two things I think you have excelled at for sure. What advice would you have for people who are too afraid to pursue their dreams?
Oh my God,
It's a hard question, isn't it?
I think you just have to believe in yourself. And you have to, I mean, my attitude when I started was, I'm going to try this. And if it fails, I'll try something else. So you have to have a leap of faith to begin with, and then not beat yourself up if it doesn't work.
A lot of people are just really afraid of failure. You were never afraid of failure.
No, because, you know, what's wrong with failing? It's not the end of the world. I mean, my God, you know, it's important to fail. But what's even more important is to learn from your failures. Nobody's perfect. We all fail sometimes. It's just part of life. And you have to take the risk, don't you?
You do. And what about overcoming obstacles? Because you certainly had a lot of obstacles.
Oh my God, yes.
Whether it's
I still do.
Ticket sales,
I still have
sponsorship,
obstacles.
so many. What's your attitude about overcoming obstacles? So many people stop when there's an obstacle. What's your attitude about obstacles?
Well, I'll be guarded with my language here.
Yeah.
I just push on, you know. I can't always say that I'm on top of the world. You know, I also have my ups and downs. But inevitably something nice will happen. Or, you know, life is a balance. It's a balance of good things and bad things, good surprises, bad surprises. And you just have to learn to go with the flow and deal with these things as they come up.
Well, I think that is excellent advice, and I just can't thank you enough for everything that you have done, not only for Vancouver's cultural exposure, but in fact the world. I mean, you're way farther better known throughout the world, even than in Vancouver. And I just want to thank you for everything that you have done to expose us to the marvelous talents that you have, and for the difference that you make in the world. So thank you.
Well, I just have a wonderful time. And, you know, who would have thought that this would have happened?
Exactly. Well, thank you so much. That's it for another episode of Bold Leaps. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to Bold Leaps on YouTube for more inspiring episodes, and tell us your bold leaps in the comments. Special thanks to our sponsor, Fresh Street Market. And remember, every step you take is a step toward your dreams.